Guys, it's Lori. Good morning. It is, I believe, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Hope you're doing well, and I hope you're really getting into your spiritual studies. I hope you're keeping your journals and writing down questions and really growing. Today, what I wanted to talk about is how do you know if you're waking up or if you're still like in the sleep state? Many of us have been in the sleep state most of our lives. And what I mean by the sleep state is you're going day to day, you're spiritually not really growing. You may have a belief, you may have a religious or a spiritual belief, but you're not really growing from that. You're kind of living just day to day. You're of this earth. The things that you worry about are earthly things, worldly things, money, but not only worry about, but the things that you focus on money, cars, material things, houses, maybe a little bit of other people, but the relationship stuff is even very surface. All about of this world. You don't tend to think about the next unless something happens and somebody may cross over or something like that. Most of us are brought up that way. We are born into the world that way. I mean, don't beat yourself up if you've been that way, but things shift in the universe the way God has it designed. He's designed it a certain way. We have certain laws of physics and spiritual laws that if we follow them, if we learn them, then we find that life actually changes. It starts to shift, and our spiritual self shifts too. It's almost like the spiritual man wakes up. Jesus talks a lot in the Bible about dying to self, the physical man being put to death, and the spiritual man awakening. And I think a lot of people don't really understand that unless they start to feel it. He just says we must be born again. And a lot of people hear that term born again, especially in the area where I'm from. I know when I was growing up, if I heard that term born again, I always immediately thought of some religious fanatic that was just totally over the edge and didn't know what he was talking about. It wasn't until I actually was awakened spiritually until I realized what that really meant. And what that means, it's a piece of you does die, but it's a piece of you that is very of this world. It doesn't do you a service anyway to live in that realm, to live in that person. It's okay to put that person to rest. I'll just tell you a little bit about my journey as I'm explaining these steps. And I'm sure there's other steps, and maybe you've experienced some other things or these steps in maybe a little bit of a different way that I'm going to explain them. And that's okay. I just want to kind of give you a gist. How do you know when you're waking up? How do you know when you're not in that soul sleep? How do you know that you are actually coming to be where you're going to be awakened and enlightened, and on track to where you need to be? Um, like I said, if you're still walking among the walking, sleeping, if you're still sleeping, most of your focus, or even if you're just starting to wake up, most of your focus is going to be on things of this world. All right. Even in relationships, you're worried about petty things of this world, greed, self-centeredness, worried about, how does your home look? How does your hair look? You could be really into like your physical self. And I'm not saying caring about what you look like means that you're sleeping. But if that's what you're focused on, if you're focused on your home, if you're focused on the nicer things that you can get. And again, I'm not saying that if you have nice things, you're sleeping. But if that's where your focus is, okay? Remember, it says the root of all evil is the love of money. It's not so much having money. Having money doesn't mean you're asleep or that you're spiritually dead. Or having nice things doesn't mean that. Or even wanting those nice things. It's when it's what the main focus is. It's when you are so self-centered or self-serving or selfish that you can't see outside of that. Recently I saw some things on social media, and I see it all the time, but it just really seemed to bother me lately when, people are so focused on the material things when they know that people are suffering. and they refuse to help. But yet, even in their refusal to help, they still put it right out there, all these brand new things they have and how wonderful it is, but yet how broke I am, those people are sleeping. And sometimes, it gets me very frustrated, but I have to remember they're asleep. I can't wake them up. I can nudge them, but I can't wake them up. Okay, so when you start to wake up, when you start to feel like, hey, I'm starting to wake up, you're going to feel a little bit of questioning. Is this right? Ooh, this doesn't feel right to me. A little bit of doubt. You start feeling a little bit uncomfortable with the world around you. You start feeling there must be more to this. How many of us have ever thought that? Ooh, there must be more than this. An unsatisfactory feeling, even if you're, according to the world, rising up the way you should. Um, Maybe at this point you're feeling you're not so much, maybe you've been victimized in your life and you're not so much feeling like a victim anymore. You kind of stepped up to survivor, but you're still kind of in that pain. But yet it feels like, okay, I don't want to be the victim anymore. I have survived it, and you acknowledge that, you recognize that. You start to really, really realize, even if you believed before that there is something bigger than me, that's when you're starting to wake up. And there are phases to this, and like I said before, everybody's steps might be a little bit different. But if you're starting to feel that way, a little uncomfortable in your own skin, a little bit like, hey, what's going on? If those things in life don't really matter anymore, they're taking kind of a back seat, you're waking up. If you start to feel, you see people in a different light, you can see the people that maybe at one time you thought, wow, that's a really good person because they do really good things. But then you can see the shallowness, that kind of stuff. You're starting to see the spiritual eyes. You're starting to see a little bit different. Be careful with this. Don't ask God to open your spiritual eyes too quick, because you might start seeing things. This happened to me before, where He allowed me to see the entities that people kind of have attached to them or have ruling them, and that's an ugly, ugly sight. And it's amazing how much of it is here. So just be careful with what you ask for, because you might not want to see that all at once. It's really kind of overwhelming. And then at the next step, you might actually feel very alone. And I think a lot of people I know are here. You start feeling like, I'm different than everybody else. Why are people so selfish? You're really uncomfortable with that. Yeah, you still care about material things, but only because you have to live here. You start feeling as if maybe everybody's at a different vibration, or many people are, and you feel very, very lonely. Like you don't belong here. Sometimes you can be so uncomfortable that you actually think about checking out at this stage. A lot of people, remember, we have negative entities that kind of watch where we're going, and they kind of play on this. And a lot of people will start getting plagued by these suicide demonic entities at this stage, because you feel really, really lost. You're really, really alone, really uncomfortable and unsettled and uneven. Now, your vibration is rising because you're waking up, and then the earthly vibration is here, and you keep rising, and it gets very, very uncomfortable. And some people will choose suicide. If you start thinking suicidal, please, please, please reach out to somebody that knows about spiritual things, not just emotional things, because a psychiatrist might make you feel like you're really crazy. Not all of them. I'm not saying that they all will, but somebody that knows about spiritual things. And you'll start feeling like introspective. You can get through this stage very quickly, though, if you just remember. This is where a lot of people go wrong. And I admit that myself, for years, I went kind of straight off the path for years at this stage, because I was at a higher vibration. The world didn't feel right. And I was fooled by a lot of the new agey kind of stuff, because what like the new age doesn't, not all new agey people, but what they do is they take the truth and they kind of twist it a little bit because they leave God out of it. They talk about God, but they really don't talk about the true God, and they leave God out of it. Thank you, God, for bringing me back around, which actually elevated me even higher when I know the truth and I actually know the Father and I knew Jesus and all of that. And it actually elevated me even higher, gave me a greater understanding, and actually prompted me to do even more. When you are at your highest elevation, you start wanting to do more for the world. You know, you care about other people, and the reason you care about other people is because you see what's been done for you. You know, no matter where you are in life, you can see that, gosh, I wouldn't be here without the Lord, right? So it's starting to open up, open your eyes. When you can seriously look and say, no matter, not, now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we don't want to own anything, we don't want to have nice things. Of course we do, because we have to have them kind of to live here and to fit in. But when they don't really matter, if you lost everything today but you still had God, you'd be okay. If you lost God and had everything, you wouldn't be okay. That's when you know you're really awake. When you see what's really important, when you start thinking eternally minded. So when you make every decision that you make day to day, whatever it is, you're thinking eternally. You're not thinking about today or tomorrow. You're thinking about eternally. Is this going to affect my eternity? You know, that kind of thing. That's when you know that you're really there. But there are steps to this, and there is a bit there where you're really, really uncomfortable. And like I said, there's a part there where you could really get fooled and thrown off track. And there's so much information out there that is not good information. It sounds good. It sounds right. It's not right. You got to really read between the lines, okay, to stay safe. You want to stay safe. And we are here for just a short time, and then we move on to eternity. We don't die. Our bodies die, but our spirit never dies. Our spirit is what's having this experience, and we're pretty much like renting or using these vessels while we're here. We want to keep them healthy. We want to keep them going so that we can get the best of the experience here that we're meant to get. But we will one day give them up. So if you have lost someone, if somebody is not here any longer, know that it's this that's not here any longer, that their spirit lives on. I hope this helped a little bit. I'm going to post some more. I'm going to actually do a class on growing. I have one going already. It's spiritual development. It's completely online. If you want to sign up for it, there's a lot more to it than what I just talked about. And it'll not only show you where you are waking up, but it'll help you to wake up completely. So if you're interested, please message me or email me. And you guys have a great rest of the day. Just wanted to say one thing about the Christmas season. Merry Christmas, everybody. I really hope, or holiday, whatever you celebrate. I really hope that things are going really well for you guys, and that you're experiencing the blessings and the love of God during this season. Remember that it is the birth of Christ, God Himself coming down to this earth that we're celebrating. I mean, God Himself came down as a human being and never sinned, and He came down for one purpose, and that purpose was for us. That's what we're celebrating on Christmas. And I know that there's a pagan holiday right next to it. I understand that. But when we celebrate Christmas as Christians, that's what we're celebrating. And you know, you see all these cards that say peace on earth and all of this, and these people that wish for peace on earth. But I got to tell you something that's really been bugging me, and that's, you know, I go on Google Plus or Reddit or um, Facebook, all this social media, and I see people that I know don't give to anything at all. Not even $5, not even to the person on the street. Maybe to some big organization or whatever, but they don't give personally. And actually just happened. I've seen a few people, they're actually living off the government and claim they can't give for anything. Always say, oh, I'd love to, but I can't. And then they just posted some pictures of their house at Thanksgiving. I didn't see poverty there at all. At all.
Then there's other people who are, showing their brand new cars and this and that, and always trying to get a deal, never mind giving to anybody. This is a time that reminds us of peace on earth. There are still people out there hurting. There are still people living in their cars, or worse yet, they don't have a car, they're living on the street. There are people living in domestic violence shelters. There are people that just got raped, people that just lost their loved ones, that are facing the holiday alone. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and it's exacerbated by the holiday season. We have movies on TV that look like everything's perfect, the commercials, then the social media. Come on, guys, give a little. $5, a buck. If you don't give to Light Insights Faith Walk, that's okay. We have this whole holiday assistance program, and I continue to do it throughout the year. It's just that I realize that everything's magnified around the holidays, so I try to do more. Um, we go to hospitals, we go to nursing homes, we go to the safe houses for domestic violence. We try to go to the houses for kids without parents. We're trying this year to get into the prisons. Plus, we make the food baskets and the presents for families. You know, we do all this stuff. It takes a lot of money. Most of it comes out of my pocket. I have a couple friends that usually volunteer each year. I need help. I need help. It just irritates me when people do that. So if you can't help, or if you help somewhere else, God bless you. But can you just be sensitive on social media or when you're talking to people or that kind of thing? I mean, if you have a car, period, if you have a roof over your head, if you have food in your belly, if you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff, you're extremely blessed. Help someone else. All right, Merry Christmas.